Good morning, Restore Church. I am excited to be able to do this again for Restore Q&A. And while I pull up the chat to just see what everyone's got going on, just wanted to again say good morning to everybody. Hope you guys had a good morning and enjoyed the service. Apparently the YouTube link won't send a chat, so I'm pulling up the YouTube link now. Yeah, so this week was one of those weeks that that it's not necessarily a revolutionary idea. It's something that we, revisit, or we're revisiting, and a topic that all Christians are familiar with, most Christians are familiar with, and but it still seems like prayer is just something we take advantage of. It's something that sometimes even gets ignored for the most part, and so anyway, yeah, it was a topic that came up as we're going through Acts. And one of the cool things about doing a study through a book is, you just kind of cover what topics, whatever topics come up. And for Acts chapter 12, I mean the praying of the church for Peter, it was the obvious, was obviously powerful. It was, can you imagine what it meant for Peter, for him to be in prison? He didn't know what was next. And then to know that the church was praying for him, and, this miraculous escape from prison from when the angel of the Lord came in. Actually, I wanted to do a little bit more study on it, but when the verse says that, I'm trying to find the verse, but it said that, in verse 7, suddenly an angel of the Lord appeared, and a light shone in the cell. He struck Peter on the side and woke him up. And I wanted to do just a little bit more study. I didn't get a chance to do it, but on that word, that he struck him, pretty interested in what that means. So if you know what that means and you are watching, would love to hear what you I'd love to hear more about it, or what you know that verse to mean. Well, does anybody have any takeaways, any insights, any questions as we kind of keep going through Restore Q&A? There's one thing that let's see, there we go. There's one thing I was thinking of during this during a sermon, and there's a couple, but one thing that came to my mind was just that, like, how often I need to be reminded of like how powerful prayer is. I need to be reminded of who it is that I'm praying to, and you can never be reminded of that too often. I have a pretty good example of that. It's like when you go to the beach or you're out in the sun, and the reminder, as it always comes from our parents or maybe your spouse, to put on sunscreen, and you're fine, and then you realize when you get home and you're sunburnt, that you didn't put on sunscreen, or you didn't put on enough, and then you end up looking kind of stupid like this because you had your hat on backwards the whole time, so you got a little stripe there. But Yeah, look, I'll show you. It's perfect. It goes right there. Yeah, so the constant reminder, is there, and I think it's important to know who we're praying to. And the early church, man, they believed that God is who He says He is. That they believed that He would do what He said He was going to do, which is the definition of faith, is believing in that, and then acting like it. And so when I ask the question, do you believe in God? We always equate like church attendance with I believe in God. Do you believe in God? Yeah, I do. I go to church. You know, we always, some of us even like equate belief in God with, you know, I go to life group, or yeah, I read my Bible. But you know, that's not the true definition of believing in God. It's knowing who God is and then acting as though we believe who God is. So there's like a cognitive part and then an action part. And so when I ask the question, do you believe in God? It's got to be more than just cognitive. We have to act as though we believe it. I mean, do you believe that your spouse loves you? Do you love your spouse? It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. And so when we say we believe in God, it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to really take action to do it. Yeah, so it's, you know, not a revolutionary idea for a sermon, but again, when the Bible talks about it, we talk about it, and we don't shy away from what the Bible talks about. So I went to click on YouTube to see if the stream was up and going, and it was just a still shot of my face, my war stripe from fishing. Well, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the service today. Kind of hanging on for a minute in case anyone had anything, but if not, next week, man, take a look into Acts chapter 13, and it's the beginning of the first missionary journey for Paul and Barnabas, and that missionary journey, I think, goes until Acts chapter 15. So Acts 13 and 14 is their first missionary journey, and then that goes to Acts 15, and then there's this, if you're reading ahead, Acts chapter 15 is this big meeting of all the church leaders, and the meeting is, will the church accept, or do people who are not Jewish have to be circumcised to become Christians? And then you see right there in the middle of it, they write a letter to Gentile believers that says that you don't have to be circumcised to become a Christian. Basically to say you don't have to become a Jew. You don't have to become Jewish to become a Christian. The underlining principle is that Jesus is enough, and that's what happens in Acts 15. So looks like I have a couple comments. Dory said that prayer is so powerful, and it has it can be overwhelming to want to be part of the change this world needs, but knowing how to be, or feeling that you can't do enough to make a difference. But prayer is so powerful, and I believe that prayer is how change will come. She said, disease, racism, and hatred have no place in the presence of God. So we come into His presence by prayer and worship. And then Eric said, Acts 12:7 looks like a game of telephone across different translations. Oh, he's tried to tackle on the struck The angel struck. One says that the angel smite or struck Peter, makes him sound like a makes him sound like a whiny soccer player that grabs his shin. Didn't the angel just nudge him to wake him up? I don't know. Maybe Peter was a heavy sleeper. Oh, this is funny. During the sermon, Bowen was in there, and Bowen said, Peter is like a heavy rock. And I was like surprised because Peter means rock. And so I said, well, yeah, how'd you know that? And he said, well, Miss Kendra taught us in the village that Peter means rock. And so maybe not only was Jesus saying that Peter is the rock in which the church, or that Peter was the rock, and then he said the foundational statement for the church, but maybe Peter also slept like a rock. Who knows? Who knows? So maybe he did need to be smited or struck to wake up. We all know someone that looks like that, or that sleeps like that. All right, guys. Well, I hope you guys have a great Sunday. Hope you guys are blessed. Maybe spend some more extra intentional time this week in prayer. And if there's anything we can do for you, here's one quick announcement for this week, and that is pay attention to our social media, because we will be making an announcement hopefully coming up this week about our plans to regather together. So anyway, hope you guys have a great week, and if there's any way we can pray for you or anything we can do for you, just let